Uh, and this is also being recorded if you want to tell your friends who couldn't make it. This recording should be available after the panelist POW. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kylie. Aloha, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm Cassie. I'm an organizer with Faith Action Hawaii, and I have the privilege to work really closely with Kylie and Lee on the Transformative Justice Task Force. I just kind of wanted to give a note about questions. So if you have questions for our panelists, please use the Q&A feature to ask those, and we'll try to get to them. And then if you have any other technical issues or questions, feel free to use the chat as well, and I'll try my best to get to those as well. So now let me invite Lee in to introduce our first panelist, and then we'll get into it.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Lee Curran. My pronouns are she, her. And I, along with Kylie, co-facilitate the Transformative Justice Task Force. And that's a part of Faith Action for Community Equity. So without further ado, let's introduce our panelists. Our first panelist is Candy Matautia. And Candy Matautia, she is a full-time student at UH West Oahu, and she also works full-time at ASI Transitional Shelter, also known as Ohana-Ola, as a case manager. She recently graduated from Leeward Community College with an AA liberal arts degree, as well as a COSAC certificate. I had to look up COSAC, and COSAC's an acronym for Competence in Substance Abuse Counseling. Candy's pursuing her BA in Public Administration, and she has 2.5 semesters left. She's a single mom to 8 children, with 6 still living at home. She's been homeless, in jail. She's struggled with substance abuse in her past. And right now she's trying to secure a better future for herself and her children so that they won't have to struggle again. Thank you, Candy, for being here this evening.
Aloha.
All right, next up, I have Na'i. So Kano'eauna'inoa, excuse me, my Olelo is literally terrible. He's from Wai'ehu, Maui, and resides in Makaha on the west side of Oahu. They're also a student at UH Manoa and just graduated with a degree in Hawaiian Studies with a focus on Malama'aina. Aloha, Na'i.
Aloha.
And next we have Sara Gaspar. Sara is 45 years old and has been in recovery for the past 5 years. She was incarcerated, she thinks back in 2010, and it was only for a short period of time, but it greatly impacted her children. Both Sara and her husband have gotten arrested and incarcerated the same day and time, and were unable to post bail because they didn't have any money. Their children saw them get arrested, and if it wasn't for their family to take care of the children, they would have been put into the foster care system. Welcome, Sara.
And next up, we have Michael Gaspar. So Michael is 56 years old and has spent more than half of his life incarcerated. And he was first incarcerated in 1982 and was discharged in 2005. Things weren't always going so great for him. Even after his release, there were still some problems that he needed to work on. And it wasn't until 2015 that he finally got his life on track. He went into treatment for his drug addiction and in December of this year, and is going to be celebrating 6 years clean and sober. And he's also been in college, going on 4 years now, and has graduated with his AA in liberal arts. It's been quite a journey for him, but well worth it because he's here with his wife and children who have continued to be there for him throughout the good times and the bad. Aloha, Michael.
Aloha.
And last we have Kat Brady, who is our moderator for tonight. Kat Brady is a community justice advocate and coordinator of Community Alliance on Prisons, CAP, a community initiative promoting smart justice policies in Hawaii for more than 2 decades. CAP's work includes the conditions of confinement, visitation issues, racial injustice, and human rights concerns. CAT has served as the prisoner representative on the UH Institutional Review Board for more than 20 years, is a board member of Hui Aloha Aina Kale Maili Ali'i, and works closely with several community organizations to promote justice and equity issues. So mahalo, Kat, for being here, and everyone. And I will pass it now to you, Kat, to facilitate our discussion.
Sorry, Kat, we can't hear you. Kalamai, sorry.
I need a 5-year-old. Sorry about that. I am so honored to be here tonight and to be moderating this panel with these fabulous folks from the West Side. Right on. We're going to be talking about bail and what is the purpose of bail? The purpose of bail is actually, there's two reasons for bail. One, to ensure that somebody shows up to court, and two, that they present no risk to public safety, to the community. Unfortunately, people don't quite understand what bail is about. Many people think bail is punishment. Everybody who is a pre-trial detainee is innocent until proven guilty. So bail is that process that you hope, you want somebody to show up. And you know, I've been researching this. There's a lot of different things that are happening all around for bail. You know, jurisdictions are sending text messages to people to show up. There's all sorts of things that could be done to actually connect people and have them show up. And the data shows that when people get those options, 80 to 90% of the people do show up for their court date. You know, a judge recently talked about bail and he said, you know, the easiest thing to do is to have no cash bail for low-level crimes. Jail is not the answer for poor people. And yet when we look at who our pretrial detainees are, many of them could not afford to pay bail. And they're stuck in jail. And the statistics show that when you can't make bail, your chance of going into prison is much higher than people who actually do bail out. So we've been looking at, you know, the statistics, and about 30% of the people currently that are incarcerated in community correctional centers statewide are pretrial detainees. And it costs $219 a day. We're talking about 900 people. That's a lot of money that we could actually be doing better things with, that we could actually be doing more programs and offering more services to shut off the valve to the incarceration system. And all around the country, jurisdictions are, you know, eliminating bail or reforming it. In March of this year, Illinois just eliminated all cash bail. But Alaska, California, Georgia, New Jersey, New York, Vermont, and Washington, D.C. have all been, you know, reforming bail and pretrial detention because they know that it's expensive and doesn't really get to where we want to go. We want to help people. We want to lift people up who are in crisis or having challenges instead of incarcerating them. So I am honored to be moderating this panel with people who will tell you the real story, the human side of bail and what it does. So I'd like each of you to talk about who is that person, your ancestor or somebody who actually taught you about love. Can anybody? Who is that person?
I'll go ahead and speak. I'll go ahead and speak. So for me, when I think about someone who's taught me love, I think of my tutu, my mom, my dad, my aunties, uncles, basically my ohana. That's who basically taught me about love, not just about love for one another, but love for this aina, love for the ocean, and just everything around us. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
And that's why you went and got your degree in Kano'eauna'inoa. Right on.
The person that taught me about love, I would say would be my grandma too. So my grandma raised me real laid back style. Not how it is now, like in a fast pace. I was raised like up by Mount Ka'ala side. So up Waianae Valley, in one little shack up Waianae Valley. Yeah, it was nice, peaceful, quiet. She taught me, I think, growing up, to me, like thinking about it now, it was like how to be humble. Yeah.
Great lesson from Tutu. Sara?
I would totally have to go with my mom. You know, she was always there for us, the backbone of the family. My dad left us when I was pretty young. Um, and she was just the sweetest lady, you know. She would give you the shirt off her back, give her last dollar to a total stranger. And I try to instill that in my children today. And I see that they practice that, you know, and I mean, I'm just experiencing new love too, because I'm a new grandma. So it's like
Woo!
it's awesome. Having that connection back with my children today, being in recovery, it means so much to me today. So
Oh,
yeah, I would have to say my
congratulations.
mom.
Congratulations, Tutu.
Thank you.
Awesome. Michael?
For me, I would have to say it was my mom, my grandma, and I'm gonna have to say my mother-in-law too, my wife's mom. Because I grew up in a dysfunctional family. My dad was never there, and when he was abusive. That led me to getting into trouble. And it wasn't until I met my wife while I was incarcerated. And our story is complicated because her mom and my dad were married before. Her mom and my dad, her mom was my dad's first wife. But when they got separated, she kept my dad's last name. So all her and her brothers and sisters all carried my last name. But we're not related. There's no relation. But it was her mom that really installed family and what family is for me. Because that all she wanted the family to be together. And today I live with that. I teach my kids that. I try to do what's best for my kids. And because the way I was grown up, I cannot see myself disciplining my kids the way I was. I prefer to talk to them and try to sit them down and talk to them so that they understand what is right and wrong.
That's great. How many kids do you and Sara have?
We have a total of, well, with me and her, we have 3 over here, but altogether we have 4. Because I have another son that we don't know where he's at.
Wow. How old are they?
The youngest is 15. The oldest is 26.
Wow. You're busy.
As you know, we're proud grandparents now.
Yes, congratulations. That's really awesome.
Thank
So,
you.
when in the introduction, it said that when you and Sara were arrested, your kids were there. How?
Yeah, there was an incident. We used to tow cars and haul scrap. So somebody gave us a car to tow. We hooked the car up, towed the car. We towed it back to our house before we take it to the scrapyard. And when we took it to the house, We got out, we went to see the kids, tell them we were going to take the car in. And when we went out to get the car, we got surrounded by the cops. They ended up arresting us. They were accusing us of stealing the car at first. They arrested us for that. We went to OCCC. Me being my background and being I was incarcerated before, my bail was to the roof.
Yeah.
And there was no way I was going to be posting that. So we stayed there. We stayed there like a couple of weeks. And finally we went to court and we were let go. We went home. But still yet, in the meantime, my kids, they're without us. They're without their parents. It's a good thing that our family was there and help take care of them. It's
So did you have to
ridiculous.
sit down and really explain to them, you know, what happened, or how did
Pretty much,
it
yes.
impact them?
They were like, the first thing they asked was, what's going on? Why they take you guys away from us?
Yeah.
So we have to explain to them what happened, but if you look at it, you get arrested, we got arrested for something we didn't even do. Then they want us to post bail. We can't post bail. We're taken away from our children, taken away from our jobs, only to be released because we were innocent. So where does that leave us? How do they compensate you for that? That's 2 weeks of your life taken away. 2 weeks of your life taken away from your children for nothing.
So how are your kids now?
They're fine. They live by example. We teach them what is right. We try to teach them what is right. And all my kids, they're very, I can't say all of them. I deal with my youngest one. I was young before. So other than that, they're all good. We live a happy life now today.
That is so awesome, because you show the other side and you show the resilience of the human spirit. That to me is amazing, and we can all learn and embrace that. So Na'i, how did it feel for you? How were you impacted?
So when I was incarcerated, I unfortunately, like many others, couldn't afford the bail, which caused me, along with many others, to take the plea deal when we are so-called innocent and, you know, could possibly beat the case or beat the charge, but because of the horrible living conditions, you know, the food and just what it does to you mentally, I feel like a lot of people choose to take the plea deal because of these conditions, without knowing the consequences of the future, which in the long run could affect what type of jobs you get. You know, you could be out of a job because of it, because you've stayed in so long because you couldn't afford bail. You know, so things like that, it really takes a toll on not just the individual, but also the family. And I don't know, it's hard, because personally, that's what I did. I took the plea deal just because I wanted to get out of there. And even today, it's affected me in negative ways, where I couldn't get certain jobs, but I won't let that define who I am now. I'm pretty determined to rise above all the nonsense that has happened in the past. But yeah, it's very unfortunate. And hopefully they can do away with and end this cash bail. And you know, it's, where is it? Let me just pull up something that I found. So I did a little bit of homework, and I've seen that studies have shown that the inequities of the cash bail system in Hawaii fall disproportionately on Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders, who are more likely to be arrested, detained, and unable to afford bail. So therefore, these types of things target Native Hawaiian communities, low-income families who are less likely to afford bail, therefore will be in the prison system, jail system longer. And we all know, us in jail, we're no use to anybody. We belong out here in our communities.
Yes. So we need to develop, and we'll get into this, better ways of actually dealing with wrongdoing in our community and better ways to use our meager resources.
Yeah.
What we're doing is spending a whole bunch of money that could actually be lifting people out of poverty. So Candy, how did the whole bail thing impact you and your family?
I wasn't able to post bail, just like the other panelists. I never grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I came from one family with nothing. And at the time when I was incarcerated, so they offer, when you're incarcerated, sometimes they offer supervised release.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that when you're in prison, in order to make the phone call, you need someone to call that has a landline. Nowadays, there's nobody that I know, honestly.
Yeah.
None. And then, they have to accept the collect calls. It was hard to reach any family members, so that was a dead end. And then when it came down to my husband trying to bail me out, that was money that we just didn't have at all. It took 6 months, and I stayed in there for 6 months until he was able to come up with the money for bail. And when I was incarcerated, my son was a newborn. My husband didn't know how to care for a newborn. What happened was my cousin took care of my son for me while I was in there. And till today, so my son is 10 now, but till today I didn't have that time with him. And it was those months that I wasn't with him that I wasn't able to bond with him.
Yeah.
So, and that's something I can never get back. I don't have that with him like I have my other children. He actually still calls my cousin that. I think so. That's of everything that I think so that I would be able to look back on and say what affected me the most. It would have been that. I too did take a plea deal, and the way we was raised, I mean, honestly, I never knew that. I never come from a good family. My family is dysfunctional too. I never knew that you graduate from high school, you go to college, you get that degree, you work, try buy one house, secure one future. I honestly thought that you just live off of the welfare system stamps for the rest of your life. Like I never had anybody to teach me that you graduate from high school and then you get this degree and then this is how you buy this. And you know, I never had any of that. And if I had that, you know, maybe things would have been different. But me taking that deal, like what they said, I just wanted to get out. And it hindered me. When I came out, I had my first, I applied for a job and they asked me about my my records. And then I had to tell myself to them and explain to them like change person from that person with this court record that you're looking at. And thank God they gave me a chance. And all I needed, in life, all we need is just that one, you know, forgive us one chance. Yeah, that's how that happened to me.
And look at you now. I mean, you're amazing. You've got a job, you're a mom, you're a caseworker, you're a college student.
No,
I mean, multitasking to the max. It's awesome, and you have a lot to be proud of, Candy. That is quite a story. And Sara, the smile. So I can't even imagine what it's like being arrested in front of your kids. And what can we tell the system that they need to change? I mean, how that must have impacted your kids. And just that whole bit of not understanding what's going on and how come they're taking mom and dad away. So I think it's really, we've got to come up with better ways. So in Riverside, California, when they're going to arrest somebody and that person is from a family and has children, they bring a van of social workers and doctors along with the police. And then what happens is the van goes up first and the cops don't go up first, and the van people go in and talk to the kids and invite them into the van, which has like toys and games and stuff, so they can distract the kids while mom and dad are being arrested. So kids don't have to see that. And in some ways, it's not a perfect solution, but it is a way of acknowledging the trauma that kids go through when they see something like that. So do you think we could develop things like that in Hawaii that would actually help? You know, we're talking about having mobile crisis teams. What if we had teams that actually help families when something goes down and we're not quite sure, you know, what's going to happen, but there's children there. And we have to pay attention to that because they're so impressionable. And sometimes these memories are burned into their minds, and we want them to have, you know, positive, good thoughts and not fear. And I think that's the fear is the part that to me is really damaging. Did you find that for your kids? Yeah.
I would honestly say it was like the most heart-wrenching thing that I had to see was my son, my baby, standing there and crying and yelling at us while we were getting handcuffed. And I mean, today I look at him, he does have like, I know he's troubled. I know he's troubled from our past and what he's seen, what he witnessed, and what we've been through, not just with getting arrested, but like in our addiction. I know that played a big part of my children's life.
Mhm.
But I still have that impression in my head of my little son standing beside the mailbox, screaming and crying as I was getting handcuffed by the police officer.
So let's talk about things that we could do that would be better. So what would have helped? So would it have helped if along with the police, there were social workers or other kind of people who could bring out the humanity rather than just, there's a law and they broke the law or whatever.
Definitely. I mean, even if it was just an officer, they don't come by just themselves. There's more than two officers that come. Even if it was just one officer to take our children in to the driveway or in towards the house and not see us getting
Yeah.
handcuffed, I think even that would have been a big difference.
So that would be like more training, right? To
I agree.
like psychological training so that
Yes.
police realize that, this has an incredible impact on children, and not only children, on
Yeah.
other people who are watching, people who love you, who are watching it. So what do you think would have been most helpful at the time of your arrest? And what is something that we think we can actually do? I mean, is there a lot of change is incremental, right? So small steps to reach a bigger goal. But what do you think we can do to actually address this? Because we've got 900 people statewide, 903 people as of Monday who are, pre-trial, and they're sitting in jails all around Hawaii. And what can we do? I mean, that is a huge part of the population. It actually at one point was almost 50% of the population, and they've gotten it down because the statewide population is about a little less than 3,000, and there's 900 people who are pretrial. So that's about 30% of the people. That's a big chunk of the people who are, incarcerated. And how is that helping anybody? So what do you think would be helpful? Have you ever heard of unsecured bail? Have you ever heard that term?
No, I haven't.
A law passed in 2019 called unsecured bail. And what it is if somebody does not have the money to bail out, they basically sign a promissory note. And they say, if I don't show up, then I have to pay the bail. And, then they can get out because they have this note that says that they'll show up to court. And in Hawaii, it's been used, once since 2019. And, I think we need to really educate judges. And I hope there are judges watching who, can hear your stories and think about people who come before their bench and actually see them as human beings. So I think it's really important that we educate the judiciary on the impacts of bail. So I'm kind of curious why a lot of people who have been through your experience don't want to talk about it. I'm kind of curious why you wanted to be on this panel. What do you want to accomplish?
Well, I feel like more people would talk about it. I just feel like there's not many opportunities for people to talk about it. And one of the reasons I chose or agreed to be on this panel and share my story is with hopes that it may help somebody may hear the story and feel compelled to do something about it. Yeah, I mean, I just really hope whatever me and the other panelists have to say can really help somebody and benefit.
Right on. Thank you. That's really great. Candy?
I chose to be on this panel to see if I can be a voice to others out there like myself, where being incarcerated and not being able to post bail and be with your children, how much it caused a disconnect. If I can be a voice and I can help, then even if I just help one person or make a spark on everyone that's listening, you know, if we can move and speak on it and cause and make change.
Yes.
I'm
Thank you. That is awesome, because all of you want to contribute. And that is so, I want people to understand that you have walked through a difficult time, you've come out the other side, and you actually want to help and build our communities. This is awesome. And I really appreciate all of you for that kind of, instead of just going into a cocoon and trying to forget what happened, you want to share that so that other people can feel comfortable to share their stories, and that together that will make change. And it will, because your stories are really impactful, because they're real. They're about you, they're about your kids, they're about your neighborhood. This is really, really crucial. And I really want people to understand the impact of bail and incarceration on families, because maybe one family member is incarcerated, but the family is invisibly incarcerated when somebody is inside. So it's really important that we understand that.
This is where
So
this change is made, you know, with
yes,
being together, coming up with ideas and talking about how to make change. So yeah, I thank you guys for allowing us to do that.
oh no, you guys are the story. You're the stars of the story. And you can come and tell your story to the legislature, because it makes a huge difference when people testify who have the real experience, the lived experience. You know, it's different when you read about it and then when you actually live it. And I think that we want people to feel that. What is it like, and how scary it is, and other things that we could be doing, because so many people are incarcerated for public health problems, you know, for substance misuse or mental health problems, depression. You know, people are suffering, and incarceration is not really the thing that helps them. So what we really want to do is we want people to understand the impact of bail, and to understand that we have many people inside who don't belong there, but they can't afford to bail out. And that to me is really a social indictment. If we are taking the people who are on the lowest rung of the economic ladder and we're using jails as housing, something is very wrong. And we can fix that. Other places have fixed that. You know, Illinois just totally eliminated cash bail just March of this year. I mean, this is happening all around the country, and Hawaii is really slow to make change. And it's really sad when I hear your stories and your families. It breaks my heart, and it also energizes me to never give up, because I just think, wow, you're important to our community, each of you. You all are contributing to our community, and that is amazing. And you're showing people the other side of bail. You know, you guys have walked through a dark path, and you're all college people, you're all graduating, and your grandma and grandpa. That's so awesome. And it shows that we're all the same. We're all the same. And I think that's what we want people to understand, that It's not those people. It's us. It's all of us. And all of us who our tax dollars are contributing to this unjust system of, people being locked up because they're poor. That's ridiculous. And we know that one of the biggest drivers of incarceration is poverty. That's a huge driver of incarceration and recidivism. And, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, right? I mean, people have to live, they have to find a place to live, they have to find a job to earn some money to pay rent. It's a huge process. And I think we need to get people to understand that it's not so easy for everybody. Look at Candy, her story. I mean, she grew up with absolutely nothing. And, just what are we doing? Why aren't we helping people who are struggling? So that's what this discussion should actually be prompting people to say, wait a minute, why is that happening? Why are we doing this? Maybe there are better things that we can do. So instead of bail for some low-level, offenses, we could do community service. People can help out nonprofits. They could, do other things that don't involve incarceration. And we need to start looking at things like that. Our communities need lots and lots of help. So there's plenty of stuff to do. And we need to figure out how to get people who are trapped in the system because they're poor, and how do we get them into a place where they can thrive? And I think we need to do that. And we need to come up with some recommendations that we can make to the legislature. So one of them would be perhaps community service for, certain offenses. But what else are you guys thinking? I'm sure you talked to people when you were inside. What would be better things that we could do rather than incarcerate people?
For me, I would think so if they could have a program like, how they have clean sober houses where people come out to drug treatment centers. If they could have some kind of program like that for people that can't post bail, that would be awesome.
So there's a nonprofit that actually started something on the continent called equity centers. So instead of jails, they have equity centers that are places the whole family can actually go. And there's all sorts of services and resources in that place. To me, that would be the thing that would really help people, because a lot of people who are arrested, we know, are people who are living in tents in Kano'eauna'inoa. And, that's not humane what we're doing, and there's no aloha in that. So give me some ideas that you think would really be helpful. Think about your own situation and what would have happened, what could have changed to make things better?
So I'm gonna go ahead and because I'm looking at something that my sister put over here in the Q&A, and I have to say I 100% agree with her, where she says Hawaiian methods of healing should be integrated in policy and Western frameworks. It can prevent recidivism in the Native Hawaiian population. Why? Because most of the incarcerated population is Native Hawaiian.
Yes.
So out here in the population, it seems, I don't know the exact numbers, but it feels like Native Hawaiians are the minority, but in the prison system, jail systems, we make up the majority.
Yes.
Which is why I agree with what my sister is saying here.
Yes, very true. Because I think we have when we look at the plans that our kupuna left, we know that they dealt with, wrongdoing in their community. How did they deal with it? And basically it wasn't just casting people out. And I think that that's acultural. when you just banish people, that's not building community. It's not helping anybody. So I think it's really important that we, actually incorporate the lessons and the beautiful mo'olelo of our kupuna, who they did leave a plan. And, I think we need to start paying attention to that. Anyone else? Okay, so if we totally eliminated cash bail for certain offenses, and there are certain offenses that will be eliminated, like family violence, sex assault, those are crimes that they will generally accept out for different things. But we could actually, if we had eliminated bail for low-level crimes, I'm talking about like class C and below felony. What kind of resources would be needed? So class C is mostly drug crimes, right? What would be better?
More treatment centers. More treatment centers.
Not enough treatment, yeah, in the community?
Not
Or
really.
more preventative action places, I guess, before places that can help prevent people getting into drugs or crime before it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not really sure what that would look like, but I just think that could be something.
More
think when-
structured services. More
Yes.
structured services, such as because you look at it here in Waianae, we only have 2 treatment centers in Waianae. And you're right earlier when you said a lot of the problem is drugs. I mean, and not all of us choose to go that route. It's just with everything that's going on in our communities, the cost of living, it just adds. I mean, look how hard it is to just keep a roof over your head. So we need more resources with treatment centers, more resources with affordable housing. When they say affordable housing, there is nothing I can afford.
Yeah, me either.
I hate to say it, but I've been living in my house right now for the past 2 years, and the amount of money we put into this house for 2 years, and now the owner wants to sell it. I could have bought a house. So we need more resources. We need our politicians and the people in higher places. We need them to do more things that's gonna give more instead of taking. Because it seems when you talk cash bail, like I said earlier in our other discussion, prison is a revolving door. It's all about the money. The more inmates they have in jail, the more money the state gets. But then not everybody is guilty. So what's the purpose of locking them up, making them post bail, and then they're gonna get out? Yeah, you're gonna give them your money back. Wow. What is that gonna do to what it's done to my family? What is it gonna do to if I have a good job and you pick me up for something minor and then I'm found not guilty, all that time that I was locked up because I couldn't post bail, I lose my job.
Yeah.
Then what am I going to do? What is my family supposed to do? I know I get a little bit technical, but I've been in the system too long. I see with my own eyes what the system does. It's all about the money. What about our lives? What about our families? What about our well-being? That should come first.
Yes, it should. Because it's the government by the people, for the people, and of the people. So, so you're right. And resources, prevention, resources would be something we definitely need to do. And I think it's a conversation we got to start having early in education so that kids actually understand. And, you know, I was in a class and I asked the class, what's justice? And this was a college class and they said, it's the law. And I said, oh, all laws are just? And they were like, I said, how many people actually drove through a red light? Almost every hand went up and I said, oh my God, I'm in a class of lawbreakers. And I wanted them to feel that. It's like, you know, it's when you pigeonhole people, you miss who they actually are. And you guys are really amazing. I mean, you have shown that you've walked the dark path and you came out the other side and you actually want to help people. You want to use your experience to actually help people who are in a similar situation or any kind of situation. I just feel so much love from you guys that you really want to build community. That is what is going to save us. So I think Hawaiian culture it's got to be at the center of what we do because we are in Hawaii and we need to look at all the amazing strategies that Hawaiians have. Environment. They were the first conservationists. They were, you know, I mean, when you look at the culture and everything that the Hawaiians have done, we need to bring all that stuff together, especially because the bulk of our population is Native Hawaiian, and it shouldn't be that way. So I see Kylie on. Does that mean you're ready for questions?
I was just going to say that was a really good segue into my next question.
I just wanted to say one more thing. Is that all right?
That's fine.
I just want to close my part because this is about you. I'm just the vehicle. But I want to close with a quote from my favorite book, To Kill a Mockingbird. And this is, if you've never read it, you should get it. It's by Harper Lee, and it's a beautiful book about the South and a lawyer, single dad, and he's speaking to his young daughter, whose name is Scout. And he says to her, first of all, if you want to learn a simple trick, Scout, you'll get along a lot better with all kinds of folks. You never really understand a person until you consider things from that person's point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. And I thought that is that is what we want people to understand, that you guys, we want them to walk in your skin and to feel what you went through. And I so appreciate your sharing your stories with us. Thank you so much. Okay, Kylie, you're on.
Mahalo, everyone, for sharing your stories. I'm a crier, and it's been nonstop. Anyway, so talking about Kanaka culture and how much we should center it, especially in the way that we are overrepresented at every level of the criminal legal system. There's a question from the chat asking, what was the turning point for you guys? How did culture influence your healing? And how did our culture impact you during incarceration? And how did it help or not help? And this is just for all of our panelists.
I'll go first. I'm off of mute. Yeah. I think so. My turning point was hitting rock bottom, not having anything. And how did culture impact me? I want it to be better. I want it to be better for my children so that they don't follow in my footsteps, so that I can provide them with information and teachings that I wasn't instilled. Today, I encourage them to go to college, get a degree. When you call, keep a good credit, save on house. Those are things that I wasn't raised with. Um, and at the same time, for me, culture was meant family. And that's what today every day when I wake up, I try to be the best version of myself for them, to be an example for them, for my children. That's pretty much it.
For me,
Okay.
I would have to
Go
say,
ahead. Go ahead.
I would, sorry, Nai. Um, I would say the turning point for me personally, um, was from being in my addiction, almost losing my life twice. I almost died twice, and it took that much to make me open my eyes and realize that what I was actually doing to myself, and my kids watching me go through what I was going through. And um I think my culture helped me to heal my inner self and to remind myself that I need to love self. I need to get back to loving myself so I can be there for my children the way I wasn't before. And everything plays a big part for me now in my life, going back to school and showing my kids that, hey, mom didn't do it before, but I can do it today. And if I can do it, I feel that anybody can.
For me, my turning point was, as my wife said, my turning point was hitting rock bottom. I almost took my wife's life. I ended up having to give her mouth to mouth to revive her. And when that happened, I said, I'm done. I need to I need to do what is right for me and what is right for my family. Culture, for me, exact same. It's exactly what my wife said with culture. Culture taught me that I need to do me first. I need to love me first before I can love my family. I didn't want to have my children grow up the way I grew up. I didn't want to treat them the way that I was treated when I was growing up. So I try to do everything totally different. I try to give them the best that I can give them. Now, I still get, because of my health issues and whatnot, I'm not able to provide for my family the way I'm supposed to. And for me, at times, it causes problems. But then I got to remember that today I have my family. Whereas before, I almost lost my family. So the life I live today, it's 100 times more awesome than I can't explain it. I can't express it. I live a happy life today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I can relate to um. Okay, hold on. So hitting rock bottom was also my turning point. Um and I so growing up I was always taught um in ways like Hawaiian ways, getting in touch with culture. So that was always something I really connected to. Um and so while I was incarcerated, I was given this pamphlet of all these different treatment centers, and I saw that there was this one treatment center called Ho'omaokeola that incorporated Hawaiian healing Hawaiian cultural practices into the healing process. And then I was like, oh, okay, that sounds like right up my alley. So I decided to go there, and I did. And while I was there, I met someone who is very dear and close to me now. Her name is Kano'eauna'inoa. Sorry. She was able to really connect me back to that side. And that was very, very helpful. Because me, I'm not the kind Hawaiian who gonna get better through a Western way of learning how to heal myself. How I heal is by getting my hands back into the aina, back into things that my kupuna did. So yeah, I'll always love her for that.
She's amazing. I know her. Yeah, you moved everybody. Na'i. Very powerful, but it's true how sometimes one person could actually make a huge difference in your life. Maybe just connect one dot, and it can make a huge difference. And I hope what you all know is how amazing you are, and the example of people who have, you're an example of resilience, all of you. And to me, you're heroes, because you have really, you've been up, you've been down, and you are zooming right now. You are awesome. You're soaring. You know, Na'i, that's so great that you have a degree. What do you want to do with it?
I'm not sure right now. I'm just trying to wipe my tears real quick.
Well, I think the doors will be open for you, because you really have that incredible spirit. That's amazing. Okay, any more questions in the chat?
Yeah, I put some questions in the chat for panelists. We received a whole lot of questions in the Q&A and the chat, and I kind of grouped these together.
Yeah.
So what is the connection between plea bargaining and posting bail? And what are you agreeing to when you accept a plea bargain? And did you have a public defender, and did they actually help you? And did they encounter, or did they encourage you, excuse me, to take a plea bargain? And did they do anything to try to get your bail reduced? And that's a lot. You don't have to speak to all of them, but those are in the chat for you.
Very interesting. So for
sorry,
Can't-
Sarah,
no,
Oh,
wouldn't
go.
you answer that question, because I didn't get none of that offered to me. So yeah, I just wanted to say that I wasn't offered that. So
I think so. For me, at the time, not anything about the justice system, the laws, felonies, misdemeanors. All you hear is the public defender telling you that, okay, if you don't take the plea, you stay in there all the way to trial. And if you take the plea, then probably would get time served and you get released. So it's all of those. The public defender, I think so. I had the same public defender for like 4 or 5 years. At first, at the time, I feel like they're not on the same level as me, or like they're not they're not trying to get me out of jail. They just want me to take the plea deal, because, and this is just my thinking then, when I was incarcerated, that they work together with the prosecutor, and it'll be easier for them if I just plead guilty. As time went by, I got to see that he did do the little work that he needed to do for me, but that's my take on it. And I think so when you realize that if you fight the case and you win the case, I mean, it's a thought of them scaring you and telling you that, oh, this is what will happen if you lose. So that's my take on it.
So there wasn't enough, you weren't given enough information that there were options?
There's options. It's just that the things that I know now, I didn't know then. And if I what I know now, I think so things would have been different.
Yeah.
There is no real connection between cash bail and plea bargaining. Plea bargaining is just an easier way to get somebody to plead guilty to something for less time. But it's complicated because if you get arrested, you cannot post bail. You go to jail, you go to court, and then they release you because you didn't do nothing wrong. It still stays on your record that you got arrested.
Yeah.
So then you got to go to a whole process to get this all cleared off your record. Like for me, even though with all the time that I've been incarcerated, the amount of time I've been incarcerated, today I can get a lot of my stuff expunged because I maxed out. I did all my time, but the process and a lot of work. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to do that. And I'm not saying that I'm not gonna, but it just is complicated. When you get arrested and you get your first appearance in court, the first thing they're gonna tell you is, we have a deal for you. Why don't you take the deal? Why should I take the deal if I didn't do nothing wrong? So you want me to plead guilty just so I can get time served and go home because I can't afford the bail? It doesn't. There's no logic to it. Like I said, you're asking me to plead guilty. I'm not saying that everybody is not wrong, but if I didn't do anything wrong and I got arrested, why try to give me a plea bargain? Why try to give me a deal? Why would I even think of that? It don't make sense.
So the law kind of changed on bail where courts are actually supposed to look at the entire person and instead of just the offense and actually see where that person comes from. I hope that's happening, but when I look at the numbers, we still have, a huge number of people who are pretrial. So I don't know how that's working, and that'll be maybe an interesting research project for somebody at the university to see how those kinds of changes, which were made in 2019, actually help the system. Yeah. One chat said the judiciary doesn't do court records or something.
You know what I found and I shared with you guys too is that if we got arrested for drug offenses, we no longer can qualify for any affordable or HUD
Oh, any federal stuff?
yes,
Yeah.
none of those assistance. And that is something that hinders. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. All of this is really, need to tell the legislature this. So when the bills come out, you guys will be the kind testifiers because you have the stories. I mean, we can talk about the system and the data and all that. You have the real stories, and that's what moves people, and that's what makes change. So the things people don't think about is the impact that it has on the rest of your lives, on housing, employment, education, healthcare. So we need to make people aware that it's not just one person. This is a huge impact on your whole family.
Okay, I have one more question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
I just really quickly, I just wanted to share an experience that I had. It was a few years back. This was when I was getting clean and sober and trying to take care of what, like they said, a wreckage of my past. And I did find out that I had a bench warrant. And like, we're talking about people who are doing time because they can't post bail and staying in until their pre-trial, and the court system, like speeding up the process. I think it's not something that's impossible, because what I was told was to go 4 o'clock in the morning, turn myself into the sheriff's, and then, I spent all day in the jail cell, and I got to go to court and take care of that warrant. So I did that process in like a day, but I was like, I had to commit myself to go and actually turn myself in like 4 in the morning, and so just so they could get the paperwork started, and I was able to see a judge that evening.
Wow,
I just wanted to share that.
that's great.
Mahalo for sharing, Sarah. I have, I think, one more question for everyone. So going back to the first question for this panel, which is what can we learn from the person who taught us love, or how to love? How can we use that to rehumanize justice and replace cash bail and build effective systems of change? It's kind of a loaded one, so if anyone feels free to share.
I think we need more people like you guys to I'm sorry, but we come from an economically depressed community, and we just need more people like you folks to stand up for what is right for us. I feel like, I'm sorry. I'm How can I say this? Like, sometimes, well, like my self-esteem, I'm like nobody. But then really, I know I'm somebody.
You are, you're awesome.
I'm sorry, might have came out wrong, but it's like, I'm not like, oh, how can I say this? I so sorry, that came out so wrong. Like, I'm like the little person. I'm like the little person. For me, the little person to get to the big person, it will take a lot in me to go out and like share my voice and my opinions. I feel that it might not even make a difference.
Oh no,
I feel that we need more people like you guys to fight for us and be our voice. Yeah.
But your voice is amazing.
I'm so
I mean, all of you guys are just, you are giving life to the law, which is, just paper. And you're bringing it to life and you're showing people what the impact of those laws are. And I think that is the thing that changes people. They start to see that, wow, we're impacting entire communities. So one of my favorite expressions is humanize, not criminalize.
For me,
What Sara was saying about we need more people like you guys. We need more people who will speak out, period. Who's not
Yes.
afraid to speak out. Me for one, anything that's going to better the system, I'm not afraid to talk about it. I've been
Right
there.
on.
I've lived it. I know things that were just, but I'm not afraid to speak about it. The system needs to be changed for the better. But the way the system is right now, it's not. You just look at all the stuff in the news today of what's going on. So we just need more people to be willing to freely speak.
So for me, I think so. It would be if we could get more people for empower, show compassion. And if we're going back to that person that taught us love, it would be that. It would be compassion. It would be aloha. It would be mahalo. Nowadays, if you see somebody walking on the road, nobody stop and pick up that person. Before, when people walking on the side of the road, people would stop, hey, you need ride, no more of that nowadays. Would be for us to work together as a community, as a ohana, just to uplift, to praise, to hear those good things means and it will make a difference.
Well, for me, I guess I always resort back to the whole cultural aspect of things. I really feel like with Hawaiian methods incorporated back into the community and the people, things will be a lot better. For example, let's say community on a big piece of land, parts of like a community farm where people plant and trade with each other instead of a solar farm that who knows where that power goes. I don't know. Things that will benefit the community as a whole, So, I mean, I don't know. It's a pretty loaded question, but I do like it. I'm just not exactly quite sure how to answer it. And I don't know if what I said made sense, but.
No, it was a great start.
Okay, if it's okay with everyone, we're drawing to a close. It's almost 7:30, and I've got some closing announcements. First of all, on December 1st from 6 to 7:30, we will have a cash bail legislation panel. We've invited some legislators to come and share their proposed legislation for the next session. Also, this is huge, people. We would like to provide a love offering for our panelists. This is as mahalo to our 4 panelists who shared their mo'olelo. I invite you all to share your financial resources in return. This is not charity. This is not a donation. but an opportunity for us all to be in relationships of mutual care. Just as our panelists have shared generously of what they have, I invite all of you to share generously of what you have. Any funds that are given by the end of the week at the link in the chat will be collected and shared among our 4 panelists.
Oh, awesome.
And the next announcement is there'll be a link for a sign up for phone to action text. That's for once we get into the legislative session in 2022, we're going to need testimony. It could be written testimony. We're not quite sure if people are going to be in the Capitol in person. It might just be over Zoom. But we're going to ask you to submit testimony. There's usually a really quick turnaround. So we're going to text you folks, provide information, maybe a script for your testimony. The next announcement is there's going to be a panel on November 1st, that's next week, Monday, entitled The Next Honolulu Police Chief, a community panel on what we need. It's being hosted by HPC, which is the Honolulu Police Commission Task Force. So again, that's next week, Monday, and there'll be a link for that as well. And all of these announcements and links will be sent to you via an email after the panel. So if you don't catch them in the chat, no worries. We'll send you folks an email. And in closing, I want to thank you all for joining us in this Zoomiverse for this very special opportunity to have personal stories around the impacts of cash bail and incarceration. We want to thank Kat, who has been for many years working tirelessly to change our carceral system in ways that recognizes and uplifts the humanity of our communities. But most of all, we want to thank our panelists, Candy, Na'i, Sara, and Michael, who provided leadership in this learning space by bravely and vulnerably sharing their personal stories. We ask all of you folks to be leaders in reaching out to your communities and educating folks about cash bail and submitting testimony and communicating with our legislators around this issue during the 2022 legislative session. And lastly, in the spirit of co-liberation, I want to leave you with this quote from Lila Watson. She is a Maori activist, which is Indigenous Australian. And she says, if you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. So that will close out our evening.
Wait, can I say one more thing?
Please go, Na'i.
I just want to mahalo everyone who came out to watch and listen to our stories. I know there's a bunch of my ohana who came out and watched, so mahalo you guys, love you guys.
Aloha.
Aloha, mahalo everyone. Have a good night.
Yes, mahalo. Thank you guys. I love you.
Thank you guys.